a boy named Ein standing on the edge of a towering cliff. Overwhelmed by despair, he convinces himself that his life has no value because he possesses nothing that could ever make him special. Believing this is the only choice left, he steps forward and throws himself into the endless abyss. The story then rewinds to what happened before that tragic moment. Ein is part of an adventuring party, and after the group defeats a monster, they order him to do his usual task. Since he lacks any combat talent, everyone treats him as nothing more than the party's garbage collector. As he approaches the monster's body, he accidentally stumbles, instantly becoming the target of everyone's laughter. The others impatiently tell him to stop wasting time and get to work. Ein's profession is appraiser, a job that allows him to determine the value of materials and items. Unfortunately, society considers appraisers to be among the lowest ranked occupation. He explains that every person is born with a profession bestowed by the goddess of light, while the goddess of darkness is responsible for granting each person's skills. Unlike professions, skills can grow stronger through constant training. Jobs, however, are permanently divided into 3 ranks: low class, high class, and rare class. Professions such as appraiser and farmer belong to the low class category together with many other ordinary occupations. Most children naturally inherit the same profession as their parents, but because Ein became an orphan at a young age, he had no option except to earn a living as an adventurer. Using his appraisal ability, Ein inspects the monster and identifies its most valuable materials. He discovers that its fangs are classified as rank D resource, so he asks the others to help remove them. Rather than lending a hand, the adventurers ridicule him before beating him up. Fully aware of how cruel the world can be, Ein quietly endures everything and struggles alone to extract the monster's teeth. One of the adventurers openly admits that Ein was only accepted into the party because someone needed to collect monster materials. None of them wanted to deal with the disgusting corpses themselves. Although he is constantly treated like dirt, Ein continues to put up with the abuse because surviving in that world leaves him with no other choice. After completing the collection, the party resumes their journey. Before long, they come across the corpse of a hell monster, causing Soi's eyes to light up with excitement since its remains are worth an enormous amount of money. Despite his excitement, Soi quickly realizes something is unusual. Hell monsters are rank B creatures that should never exist on this level of the dungeon. Even so, Ein obediently follows Soi's orders because refusing is not an option for him. Not long afterward, Set notices another dead hell monster farther ahead. Seeing this only makes Ein even more uneasy. He desperately warns everyone that they should leave immediately, but his concerns are dismissed with laughter. The party tells him that he is free to walk away if he wants, but doing so means giving up his share of the payment. Although every instinct tells him something is wrong, Ein reluctantly continues following the group because he has nowhere else to go. Their search eventually leads them to a set of ancient ruins. Soi can hardly contain his excitement after seeing countless hell monster corpses scattered across the area, believing they have stumbled upon unimaginable wealth. Meanwhile, Ein freezes in terror when an entire pack of hellhounds suddenly emerges before them. The group instantly realizes they need to escape. However, Soi secretly reveals to one of his companions that he already has a plan to guarantee their survival. Moments later, the party's mage casts a spell on Ein, leaving his entire body paralyzed. Unable to move, Ein collapses as the rest of the party abandons him without a second thought. The hellhounds immediately charge toward him. Desperately resisting, he grabs a nearby rock and manages to strike several of the monsters. During the struggle, the fruits inside his backpack spill onto the ground. The beasts become distracted by the food, giving Ein the precious opportunity to run. After reaching the dungeon's exit, Ein is horrified to discover that the adventurers have intentionally sealed it shut. Leaving him trapped inside, with no other option, he desperately searches for another escape route until he eventually reaches a dead end. Standing before him is the same towering cliff. Ein realizes his fate has narrowed down to only 2 possibilities. He can stay and be torn apart by the monsters, or he can jump from the cliff and end his own life before they reach him. At that moment, every ounce of hope disappears from Ein's heart. The people he trusted sacrificed him without hesitation, and he believes that someone with the lowly profession of appraiser could never become anything important. Even if he somehow escaped alive, he is convinced that no adventuring party would ever accept someone they consider completely useless. Without allowing himself to hesitate any longer, Ein leaps off the cliff. In his mind, his existence has never held any meaning. He feels that he has accomplished nothing since the day he was born, and surviving would only condemn him to an even more miserable future. After an unknown amount of time, Ein regains consciousness in a strange and mysterious place. A beautiful young woman quietly walks toward him before gently placing a kiss on his forehead. A few moments later, Ein opens his eyes and is astonished to discover that he is still alive. Even more unbelievable, every injury covering his body has vanished without a trace. As he looks around, Ain notices an enormous tree towering before him. A few droplets of water fall from above, prompting him to examine them with his appraisal skill. To his complete shock, the water is identified as rank S. Curious, he then appraises the gigantic tree itself and discovers that it is also rank S. In that instant, Ain realizes he has found the legendary Tree of Life. The story then reveals that long ago, the world was home to a magnificent world tree. It absorbed magical energy from every corner of the land and continuously spread mana throughout the atmosphere, allowing adventurers to naturally convert the air they breathed into magical power. Eventually, the world tree withered away and vanished. Even after its disappearance, mana never disappeared from the world. Because of this mystery, many researcher mages concluded that other world trees must still exist somewhere, hidden in places that have yet to be discovered. Despite countless expeditions over the years, not a single person had ever succeeded in finding another world tree. Grateful for being alive, Ain thanks the enormous tree, believing it was the one that saved him. Not long afterward, hunger begins to set in, forcing him to leave in search of food. Before departing, he checks his map and realizes that even the Adventurers Guild has no record of this location. Although fear fills his heart, he picks up a stone for protection and cautiously continues onward. As Ain explores the area, he notices an eerie silence with no monsters in sight. Suddenly, invisible attacks strike him twice without warning, severing one of his ears along with several of his fingers. Panicking, he quickly uses appraisal and discovers that the one attacking him is a rank S gremlin. The creature continues its relentless assault and is about to deliver the finishing blow when a gigantic rank S bear suddenly appears and crushes the gremlin to death. Unfortunately, the danger is far from over. The bear immediately shifts its attention toward Ain and inflicts devastating injuries that leave him at death's door. Convinced that this is the end of his life, he closes his eyes in resignation. Just then, an unknown figure appears out of nowhere and effortlessly kills the bear in a single strike. Sometime later, Ain regains consciousness beneath the world tree once again. To his surprise, every wound on his body has completely disappeared. Waiting for him is a beautiful young girl named Yuri. The moment Ain lays eyes on her, he becomes convinced she is the most beautiful person he has ever seen and even mistakes her for an elf. Seeing him stare at her without saying anything, Yuri simply smiles while her face turns bright red. Before Ain can gather his thoughts, another woman named Ursula arrives. Ursula tells her daughter Yuri that the tea she prepared is already ready. Since Ain still looks completely lost, she forces him to drink a cup as well. The moment he tastes it, Ain is amazed by how delicious. Yuri happily wiggles her ears after seeing his reaction. However, Ursula immediately interrupts the peaceful atmosphere by warning Ain that if he ever develops inappropriate feelings for her daughter, she will personally erase him from existence. Because of how protective she is, Ursula then tells Ain that the only reason he is still alive is because Yuri insisted on saving him. Otherwise, someone as insignificant as him would have been left to die. She goes on to explain that Yuri serves as the guardian of the world tree. Across the world, there are 9 world trees in total, each watched over by guardians whose duty is to ensure that none of them are ever destroyed. She further reveals that Yuri is actually the physical manifestation of the tree spirit itself. After hearing this, Ain finally understands why her beauty seems almost otherworldly. The innocent compliment immediately irritates Ursula, whose jealousy leads her to punch him without hesitation. Trying to change the subject, Ain asks how they managed to restore the eye he lost during the bear attack. Ursula explains that although the drops of life possess incredible healing abilities, they cannot regenerate an entirely new eye. Instead, they crafted a replacement using a small piece taken from the world tree. She then informs Ain that the eye he now possesses is an artificial spiritual. Ursula makes it clear that she only went through all that effort because Yuri desperately wanted Ain to regain his sight. Unable to understand why Yuri would care so much about someone like him, Ain asks her directly. Yuri explains that when he first arrived after falling into the abyss, he was the only adventurer who sincerely thanked her. According to Ursula, every other adventurer who discovered the world tree immediately tried to steal its branches and valuable materials instead of showing gratitude. None of them had ever thanked Yuri before. Hearing this, Ain once again expresses his heartfelt appreciation, making Yuri blush even harder. After rescuing him not just once but twice, Ursula tells Ain that it is finally time for him to leave. Yuri, however, pleads with her mother to help him escape the abyss because she knows he would never survive outside on his own. Unable to ignore Yuri's tears and genuine concern for him, Ursula eventually gives in. Since she cannot abandon the world tree herself, she decides that the best solution is to personally train Ain. Declaring that his training begins immediately, Ursula announces that Ain will now receive guidance from one of the world's strongest guardians. Excited beyond words, Ain gets caught up in the moment and enthusiastically hugs both Yuri and Ursula. Sometime later, Ursula brings Ain into the dungeon so his real combat training can finally begin. She instructs him to look into the distance, but all Ain can see is complete darkness. Ursula then tells him to activate his mental perception instead. As he focuses his mind and remembers how Yuri became the light that saved his life, he opens his eyes once more. Instantly, the darkness disappears and everything around him becomes perfectly visible. Satisfied with the result, Ursula explains that Ain has successfully awakened the true ability of his spiritual eye. Without wasting any time, she deliberately lures a nearby gremlin over so he can face a rank S monster in battle. Ursula explains that while his ordinary appraisal can identify creatures, the spiritual eye serves an entirely different purpose. It allows him to perceive every movement his opponent intends to make before it actually happens. Ain immediately uses his ability on the gremlin and sees that its next attack will slice off his right ear. Despite knowing exactly what is coming, he freezes in place, allowing the prediction to come true as the monster cuts off his ear exactly as foreseen. Without hesitation, Ursula erects a protective barrier around Ain before using the drops of life that Yuri collected from the World Tree to restore his missing ear. She bluntly tells him that no matter how many times he ends up on the brink of death, she will make sure he learns every technique she has to. Once the barrier disappears, the gremlin immediately launches another assault. Although Ain can clearly predict every movement through his spiritual eye, he still struggles to react quickly enough to avoid them. Pushing his appraisal ability even further, he unlocks a new function that displays the exact number of seconds remaining before each attack connects. With that advantage, Ain finally succeeds in dodging the strike of a rank S monster. However, his excitement over this small victory causes him to lose focus for a split second, allowing the gremlin to wound him once again. After spending an entire week training, Ain becomes far more skilled at reading the movements of his opponents. Even so, he still has the bad habit of dropping his guard at crucial moments. After healing his latest injuries, Ursula informs him that he has successfully cleared the first phase of his training. The next challenge is simple: defeat the gremlin. Hearing that, Ain immediately loses confidence because he knows he has never possessed any real combat skills. Understanding his concern, Ursula hands him a wooden sword crafted from the World Tree itself. The weapon was made from a branch that Yuri willingly gave, despite the pain she endured while removing it. Once Ursula removes the protective barrier, Ain rushes toward the gremlin and swings his sword over and over again. Every attack misses its target. Watching him struggle, Ursula tells him to rely on his spiritual eye once more. At that moment, Ain realizes that if the eye can predict exactly when an enemy will attack, it should also reveal the precise path each strike will take. With that realization, Ain activates a technique known as super appraisal. Instantly, the world around him seems to stop as the gremlin's movements become incredibly slow. Seizing the perfect opportunity, he delivers a direct blow to the monster's head. Ain is overwhelmed with excitement because, for the first time in his life, he has defeated a monster. Even more unbelievable, his opponent was a rank S gremlin, and he accomplished it despite having no natural talent for combat. Ursula congratulates him on his achievement, but refuses to let him celebrate for long. She immediately gives him another assignment to wipe out every gremlin roaming the surrounding area. After enduring countless battles and relentless training, Ain eventually succeeds in defeating dozens. According to Ursula, that level of performance is merely the bare minimum for someone blessed with such an extraordinary eye. Since he has met her expectations, she decides it is finally time to move on to the next phase of his training. This time, Ursula teaches Ain how to analyze a monster's abilities and make them his own. Ain is convinced such a thing should be impossible because appraisal is only meant to display information. Ursula explains that the spiritual eye is far more advanced, allowing him to gain experience and master the abilities he successfully analyzes. Ain examines one of the gremlins and discovers it possesses the rank S speed skill. The moment he absorbs its knowledge, he instantly learns the technique. However, the process sends an intense pain through his head. Ignoring his discomfort, Ursula orders him to test his newly acquired ability. The instant Ain starts running, his speed increases dramatically. Unfortunately, his body is unable to withstand such overwhelming power, causing his muscles to cramp almost immediately. Ursula repeatedly heals him with the drops of life while ordering him to continue training without stopping. As more days pass, Ain gradually strengthens his body until it can finally endure incredible bursts of speed. Feeling proud of his progress, he confidently declares that he is now powerful enough to defeat the rank S bear that nearly killed him. Ursula quickly shuts down his confidence, warning him not to become arrogant because she still believes he has a long way to go. Seeing how disappointed he becomes, she reluctantly agrees to let him analyze one of her own abilities and learn it for himself. To demonstrate, Ursula fires a blazing fireball toward Ain, while explaining that he is capable of using magic as well. She reveals that her rank S ability is called Spell Suppression. Unlike ordinary mages who must chant spells before casting them, this ability allows her to activate magic through thought alone. Following her explanation, Ain successfully acquires the skill after carefully analyzing. The following days are spent entirely on magical training. Since Ain possesses only a small amount of mana, he repeatedly pushes himself until he collapses complete exhaustion. Ursula explains that the only way to increase his mana capacity is to continue casting spells until his body reaches its absolute limit. After a month and a half of non-stop training, Ain's growth becomes astonishing. He reaches the point where he can unleash as many as 1,000 fireballs, and even gains the ability to cast intermediate-level magic. The next day, Ursula finally leads him back to the place where the rank S bear is waiting, so he can settle the score once and for all. At the beginning of the battle, Ain becomes nervous after realizing that his normal attacks barely affect the monster. Remembering everything he has learned, he unleashes a barrage of 100 fireballs all at once, completely overwhelming the bear and killing it. Realizing that he has finally defeated a rank S monster with his own strength, Ain cannot contain his excitement. After the battle, he absorbs the bear's abilities and acquires both superhuman strength and weapon damage increase. Seeing how much his confidence has grown, Ursula tells him that he is finally capable of defeating the monsters standing between him and freedom. Since his training is complete, it is time for him to leave the dungeon. The two of them return to Yuri, who has one final gift prepared for Ain. She asks Ursula to hand him a fragment taken from the core of the Tree of Life. Using her magic, Ursula implants the fragment directly into Ain's body. She explains that if he ever loses his life, the fragment will automatically return to Yuri because it has been bound by a special spell. Ursula then reveals that this fragment has granted Ain a new power known as the Divine Spiritual Eye. Because a portion of Yuri now resides within him, she will always be able to support him and heal his wounds whenever he needs her help. Unable to understand why they would place so much trust in someone like him, Ain questions their decision. In response, Ursula immediately punches him once again before explaining that Yuri had always cared only about her. Now, however, Yuri has become so attached to Ain that she dreams of joining him on every adventure he embarks upon. Ursula adds that although she considers Ain an idiot, she knows he has a good heart. She asks him to take care of Yuri and show the entire world the power of his spiritual eye. Ain accepts her request and promises that he will protect Yuri with his own life. Ursula then says that she also has one more gift for him. She places a spell called Infinite Storage into his hand, allowing him to store an unlimited number of items inside the magical seal. As if those gifts were not enough, Ursula brings out a spiritual sword that was forged using materials from Yuri. She thrusts the sword into Ain's eye and makes him swallow a philosopher's stone. She explains that she has permanently linked her soul with Ain's, allowing them to communicate with each other at any time. She also warns him that if he ever does anything perverted to Yuri, he will have to answer to her even in the afterlife. Before leaving, Ain asks Ursula what she wants to do once they reach the surface. She replies that she wants to meet her family, who are the other world trees scattered across the world. Hearing this, Ain tells her that he also wants to meet her family and promises to travel around the world with Yuri so she can visit them. Sometime later, Ain continues making his way through the dungeon when he begins hearing Ursula's voice. She guides him through the correct path, and together they defeat a rank S serpent. Ain realizes that defeating these monsters has become surprisingly easy because he now possesses abilities that feel almost godlike. Ursula also tells him that she will continue helping him acquire new abilities. Ain suddenly suffers another headache, but it disappears the moment Yuri appears. She tells him that he will no longer have to endure headaches because she will heal him instantly whenever they occur. Ain thanks Yuri and tells her that she is the best thing that has ever happened to him. His words cause Yuri to blush bright red. A short while later, Ain arrives before a massive door. Ursula explains that dungeons are living beings that consume humans after they die. Every dungeon has a boss that must be defeated in order to continue deeper inside. She warns Ain that dungeon bosses are far stronger than ordinary dungeon monsters. Although Ain feels nervous, Yuri encourages him with a few comforting words. Filled with determination, Ain reminds himself that he is an appraiser who has received a divine blessing. The moment he enters the chamber, a summoning spell activates, and a gigantic golem appears before him. Ain immediately charges toward it and blocks one of its powerful attacks. He also uses one of the poison abilities he learned from the serpent, but the golem only becomes enraged and begins smashing everything around it. Ursula tells Ain that with the abilities he has learned from her, he is now capable of casting a high-level spell. She assures him that if he collapses afterward, Yuri will immediately heal him. Ain then creates an enormous fireball and launches it at the golem, destroying the boss with a single attack. Ain is amazed by his own strength and realizes that he could never have defeated a dungeon boss without Yuri and Ursula. He sincerely thanks Yuri, making Ursula jealous once again. After absorbing all of the boss's abilities, Ain notices the dungeon's core standing before him. Since he now possesses part of the world tree within his eye, Ursula is able to teleport directly to him. She explains that the core crystal can make him even stronger. Using the crystal, she transfers its power into Ain's eye, causing his divine spiritual eye to advance to level 2. After they leave the boss chamber, the entrance closes behind them. Ursula explains that there is now no way to return to the world tree. In a way, Ain has ensured that no other adventurer will ever be able to reach it. Because of that, Yuri can now travel alongside Ain without worrying that anyone will discover the world tree. Several hours later, Ain and the girls finally escape from the dungeon. The scene then changes to Soy, who is telling a group of adventurers that he deeply regrets Ain's death. Pretending to be the victim, he claims that Ain was a good person who sacrificed himself to save everyone. However, Ain suddenly appears behind them alive. Soy is completely shocked and says it is impossible because the area was overrun with hellhounds. The other adventurers ask why he seems so upset when the person who supposedly saved them has actually returned alive, since Soy had clearly made up the entire story. Ain then reveals the truth. He explains that the party cast a spell on him and abandoned him as bait for the monster. The other adventurers immediately prepare to beat Soy up, but Ain stops them. He says that despite everything, Soy was still the one who allowed him to join the party. After thanking them, Ain leaves, and everyone realizes that he has become a completely different person. Ain then explains that over the following days he continues exploring more dungeons. Each time he defeats a dungeon boss, his spiritual eye becomes even stronger. However, they are disappointed because they fail to find another world tree. As they continue walking through the forest, Ursula explains that world trees are extremely difficult to find and cannot be found in just any dungeon. Their conversation is suddenly interrupted by screams coming from ahead. Ain rushes toward the scene and quickly defeats several monsters that are attacking a carriage. After making sure everyone is safe, a young woman named Claudia suddenly throws herself into Ain's arms, calling him her hero. Her companion Jasper then explains that Claudia is the third princess of the kingdom, making her an extremely important noble. After some time, everyone arrives at Claudia's mansion. Just as Claudia is about to throw herself into Ain's arms again, Yuri stops her out of jealousy and boldly declares that she is Ain's wife. Ain is completely shocked because he never expected Yuri to make such a confession. Claudia simply smiles and says that it is not a problem because she can become Ain's second wife instead. While the two girls continue arguing, Jasper suddenly approaches Ain and asks him to marry him as well. This leaves Ain even more confused. Jasper explains that there is something important he needs to tell him. As they walk to another room, he reveals that he is the leader of the Guino Guild. Ain is immediately surprised because it is one of the most influential guilds in the world. Jasper then brings Ain into a room filled with jewels and precious gemstones. He reveals that he already knows Ain's eye contains a spiritual core. Jasper explains that long ago, the demon king Mictorin attempted to wipe out all of humanity. In response, the world tree created several spiritual core fragments and scattered them throughout the world. Shortly afterward, the world tree withered away. From this story, Ain realizes that the world tree sacrificed itself to seal away the demon king. Jasper then asks Ain to marry him because he has completely fallen in love with his eye. At that moment, Ursula quietly advises Ain to think carefully. She explains that Jasper is an obsessed collector of spiritual cores, so he may know something about the locations of the other world trees. Ain politely refuses the marriage proposal, saying that although they cannot get married, they can still become good friends. Jasper happily accepts the answer, while the girls around him continue acting completely love-struck over Ain. Taking advantage of the situation, Ain asks Jasper whether he has any information about other spiritual cores. Jasper says that he does, but every known location is so dangerous that no one has ever been able to reach them. Ain asks him to share everything he knows, promising to do everything he can to recover the remaining cores. Jasper becomes excited and gives him all the information he has. Several hours later, Ain and the girls arrive at a secret dungeon that Jasper had told them about. Yuri looks a little worried, but Ain promises that he will help her reunite with her sister, making Yuri extremely happy. After entering the dungeon, Ain touches one of the walls and is instantly teleported to another section of the labyrinth. A voice suddenly echoes through the dungeon. It belongs to a girl named Pina, Yuri's sister. Pina tells them that if they want to meet her, they must first reach the deepest part of the dungeon. She also explains that she has filled the dungeon with countless traps and cannot guarantee that they will survive. Yuri confidently replies that they will definitely make it to the end. As Ain continues moving forward, Pina wonders why her sister chose to trust a human. She believes that all of the traps she prepared will eventually kill him. However, she has no idea that Ain was personally trained by Ursula. After avoiding several traps, Ain encounters a plant-type monster that releases a sleeping gas. Pina confidently believes the attack will put Ain to sleep, but she is shocked to discover that he possesses an ability that completely negates all poisons and abnormal status effects. Ain summons his spiritual sword and defeats the monster with a single slash. Moments later, he is attacked by something hidden in the dungeon, but the attack causes no damage because he possesses another ability that completely nullifies attacks launched from ambush. Pina becomes even more frustrated because she cannot believe Ain is able to counter every trap inside her dungeon. Soon afterward, Ain eliminates several ants hiding in stealth with a single attack. After stealing their abilities, he confidently says that Yuri taught him enough tricks to defeat rank S monsters with ease. Pina becomes furious and declares that the next monsters will definitely defeat him. However, a rank S centaur and a rank S spider soon appear, and Ain defeats both of them with a single slash. Watching everything fall apart leaves Pina completely discouraged because Ain seems like a monster himself. The scene then shifts to Soy, who arrives at a tavern and tries to speak with his companion, Yolin. Instead of supporting him, everyone at the tavern begins judging him. Yolin starts crying and pretends to be the victim, claiming that Soy is thrown out of the tavern. While wandering the streets, Soy realizes that he must restore his ruined reputation somehow. He decides to accept a dungeon request, unknowingly choosing the very same dungeon where Ain is currently exploring. After touching one of the enchanted walls, Soy is teleported to another part of the dungeon. He immediately falls into one of Pina's traps. Although he survives, Pina's voice echoes through the dungeon, explaining that no one can actually die there. However, anyone who falls into one of her traps must start the dungeon over from the beginning. Several hours later, Soy finally encounters a rank S monster. He attempts to attack it, but instead suffers a serious wound to his arm. Pina tells him that if he simply admits defeat, she will immediately remove him from the dungeon. However, Soy's pride is so great that he would rather die than surrender. At that moment, Ain suddenly appears and defeats the monster with a single slash. Soy is left completely stunned when he realizes it is Ain. He cannot believe that Ain defeated the rank S monster in just one attack. Ain simply borrows Yuri's power to heal Soy, then uses a sleeping skill on him before asking Pina to remove him from the dungeon immediately. A short time later, Ain arrives at the entrance to the dungeon boss's chamber. The girls explain that as long as he does not destroy the dungeon core, the path back will remain open. Understanding this, Ain enters the room. After hearing a loud rumbling sound, Ain activates his flying ability and sees what appears to be an entire mountain beginning to move. Moments later, a gigantic turtle emerges from the ground. Ain attacks it several times, but he quickly realizes that magic has no effect on the creature. He then comes up with a plan and calmly approaches. Instead of dodging, Ain stands completely still and allows the giant turtle to step on him. Just as he suspected, everything turns out to be an illusion. Once the illusion disappears, he discovers that the terrifying monster is actually just a tiny turtle. Ain tells Pina that he has already won and has no intention of killing such an adorable little turtle. Having no other choice, Pina admits defeat. They then pass through another door where Pina herself is waiting for them. The two sisters happily reunite, and Pina immediately teases Yuri by asking whether she has fallen in love with Ain. Yuri instantly blushes, while Ain smiles after seeing how close the sisters are. Pina then asks to join their journey in exchange for giving her spiritual core to Ain. Ain agrees, and the little turtle he brought with him suddenly transforms into a young woman named Kurohime. Kurohime explains that she is Pina's guardian and the daughter of the legendary Black Turtle. Ursula suddenly becomes nervous and tells Ain that he must first receive Kurohime's blessing. Kurohime then tells Ain that, just like Ursula, she also wants to travel with him. She hands him a philosopher's stone as well. Sometime later, Ursula prepares both Pina's spiritual core and Kurohime's core. Using magic, she fuses them into Ain's spiritual eye, allowing him to absorb their power. After everything is finished, Ursula thanks Ain because Yuri is genuinely happy with all the help he has given her. Meanwhile, Soy is filled with frustration because he cannot accept that someone as ordinary as Ain has surpassed him. Several hours later, Jasper accompanies Ain to the Adventurers Guild. The receptionist welcomes them, and Ain says that he wants to sell the items he collected inside the dungeon. After handing over his adventurer card, the receptionist notices that Ain is only rank F. She also sees that his job is appraiser, and asks Jasper whether he is really sure about buying Ain's items, believing that someone like him must have stolen everything. Tired of listening to everyone's accusation, Ain opens his infinite storage and pulls out the corpses of numerous powerful dungeon bosses. The adventurers are shocked, but instead of believing him, they become even more convinced that Ain stole all of the items because they cannot imagine a rank F appraiser defeating so many powerful monsters. Ain becomes discouraged because this is exactly why he never wanted to return to the adventure. Their conversation is interrupted when a woman named Megan arrives. Everyone is surprised because Megan is the guild master of the capital's adventurers. She tells everyone that they should never judge someone based solely on their profession. Megan offers Ain a few encouraging words, making him feel much better because he realizes that there are still kind people within the guild. Before leaving, she invites Ain to join her guild and says they will likely meet again in the future. The receptionist then asks Ain to put away his items because they will continue the transaction in another room. However, Jasper tells Ain to show everyone the rest of the items he obtained from the secret dungeon. The entire guild is left speechless because no one ever imagined that Ain had successfully cleared a secret dungeon. Unable to handle everyone's attention any longer, Ain runs out of the guild. Sometime later, Ain is relaxing in the hot springs when Yuri suddenly appears beside him completely naked. Ain panics because he never expected Yuri to enter the men's bath. Pina then appears as well, and jokingly tells Ain that if things continue like this, he and Yuri will soon have babies. Just then, Ursula storms in, furious. She warns Ain not to even think about doing anything inappropriate with her daughter, because Yuri is the most precious treasure she has. After leaving the hot springs, Ain sits down and talks with Kurohime. Ain says that he understands there are 7 more pairs of World Tree spirits and guardians left to find. However, Kurohime corrects him. She explains that there are actually only 7 pairs in total because the first World Tree core was never completely shattered. This means that a spirit named Echidna is likely still somewhere in the world together with her guardian, although even Kurohime has no idea where they might be. After a long conversation, Ain tells Kurohime that he plans to find the remaining World Trees so he can make Yuri happy. The next morning, Ain wakes up and heads to the main hall where he finds Megan and Jasper waiting for him. Megan tells him that she has a request. She needs him to defeat a behemoth, one of the powerful ancient dragons that once served the Demon King Miktora. After the Demon King was sealed away, the dragon hid itself for many years, but it has recently started attacking every merchant traveling to the city. Megan wants the rank S creature eliminated, but she warns Ain that the mission could cost him his life. Without any hesitation, Ain accepts the request and both Megan and Jasper are relieved to know they can count on him. Several hours later, Ain arrives in the middle of the desert after locating the dragon. He immediately launches a powerful attack at the ground because the dragon is buried beneath the sand. The behemoth bursts out in anger and asks why Ain interrupted its sleep. The dragon explains that ever since the Demon King was sealed, it has never met anyone stronger than itself. It asks Ain why he came looking for it when he is only going to die anyway. Ain calmly replies that he came to defeat it. The behemoth laughs at him before unleashing a barrage of powerful attacks. Ain dodges every one of them and counters by slicing off one of the dragon's legs with. The dragon burrows back into the ground and after several seconds, suddenly leaps out and swallows Ain whole. At least, that is what it thinks happened. A massive explosion erupts from inside its body, blowing the dragon into countless pieces. Just before disappearing completely, the behemoth admits that it had never feared Ain or anyone else in its entire life. With its final words, the dragon thanks Ain for finally setting it free, and shows him its respect. The dragon then dies, and Ain cannot help feeling a little sympathy for it. He appraises all of the dragon's abilities and acquires several rank SS skills. The girls soon arrive and congratulate Ain on how powerful he has become. However, Ain humbly tells them that all of his strength exists only because of their help. Several hours later, Ain arrives at Claudia's mansion. Claudia greets him, and shortly afterward, the king himself arrives. At first, Ain is intimidated by the king's overwhelming presence, but he quickly realizes that the king is much kinder and more easygoing than he expected. The king even jokes that it is an honor to meet his daughter's future husband, leaving Ain extremely embarrassed. The king tells Ain that defeating an ancient behemoth is an incredible achievement. He sincerely thanks Ain not only for defeating the legendary dragon, but also for saving Claudia's life the other day. As a sign of his gratitude, the king even kneels before Ain. Before leaving, the king explains that he has important matters to attend to, so he presents Ain with a watch bearing the royal emblem. He tells Ain that the royal token will allow him to freely enter and leave wherever he wishes. Ain feels honored to receive such an important gift and believes it will make searching for the rest of Yuri's family much easier. He gratefully accepts the gift and sincerely thanks the king. In another scene, people throughout the city are talking about the adventurer who defeated the behemoth. Meanwhile, Soi accidentally bumps into another adventurer. As he lies on the ground, he feels miserable while hearing everyone praise Ain. He bitterly thinks that someone as worthless as Ain should still be collecting monster remains inside dungeons for him. At that moment, a girl named China appears before Soi. After introducing herself as a spirit, she tells him that she can help him achieve what he desires. The scene then shifts to Pina, who has just finished taking a bath. As Yuri dries her hair, Pina mentions that Ain has been sleeping for many hours. She explains that it is only natural because of his exhaustion and suggests that they go shopping to prepare something delicious for him to eat. At first, Yuri worries that leaving Ain alone might be dangerous, but she eventually agrees after realizing that the chances of anything happening are almost non-existent. Meanwhile, China tells Soi that she understands how deeply he resents Ain and promises to help him get his revenge as much as she can. At the same time, Ain is trapped in a strange trance where he relives his memories with Soi. He realizes just how cruel Soi had always been toward him. Suddenly, Ain sees himself in an alternate world where he died because he never met Yuri, Ursula, and the others. His own ghost tells him that he would never have become someone important if it had not been for the girls. At that very moment, Ain suddenly wakes up from the dream. Ursula stays by Ain's side while he recovers and tells him that the girls have been very worried about him. After visiting the king, he had fallen asleep for many hours and would not respond no matter what they did. Ain then explains that he had a strange nightmare that made him realize something important. He admits that if it had not been for the girls, he would still be the same worthless person he used to be. Hearing those words makes Ursula feel a little guilty. Meanwhile, China reveals to Soi that Ain possesses a spiritual eye, which is why he became so powerful in such a short time. Soi becomes furious because he believes it is unfair that Ain gains so much power without any effort. However, his anger quickly turns into excitement when China tells him that she can give him a spiritual eye as well. China immediately summons a spiritual eye and, without hesitation, places it onto Soi's forehead. In an instant, Soi transforms into a hideous monster. Despite his terrifying appearance, he excitedly declares that he can feel incredible power flowing through his body, and that he has never felt so light before. As he moves through the city, Soi spots his former companion Yolin. Without warning, he tears the head off the man standing beside her. Yolin immediately recognizes Soi's voice and apologizes for everything she said at the Adventurers Guild. However, Soi does not care. Despite her apology, he kills her without hesitation. Meanwhile, Yuri, Pina, and the others arrive in the city. As Yuri talks about wanting to help Ain, they suddenly hear a massive explosion. Yuri immediately heals an injured child and tells him to run as fast as he can while she continues helping the other victim. At the same time, China tells Soi that it is time to eliminate Ain's spirits because without them, Ain will lose all of his power. Soi suddenly appears behind Yuri, but Pina quickly traps him inside a magical barrier. The two girls immediately run away, knowing that Soi's magic is powerful enough to break through the barrier very quickly. As soon as he escapes, Soi charges straight toward Pina. Although she raises another shield, his attack still breaks through and strikes her. Pina believes she is about to die. Soi then grabs Yuri and is about to kill her when Ain suddenly arrives. With a single slash, he forces Soi to release Yuri. The girls immediately retreat into Ain's spiritual eye, and Ain uses his appraisal skill on Soi. However, the results only identify him as an artificially created chimera. Soi's level is so high that Ain's appraisal cannot fully analyze him. The battle immediately begins. Ain blocks one of Soi's attacks with his magical shield, but it fails because of Echidna's blessing. Ain then realizes that the monster before him is actually Soi. Even though he hesitates to fight his former companion, Soi's attacks still land. Ursula tells Ain that he must defeat Soi before Soi kills him. However, Ain continues to hesitate because deep down, he does not want to kill someone who was once his companion. Soy laughs and says that he has never felt so much power before. He admits that he envies everything Ain has experienced. Blinded by his new strength, Soy believes that using his power for his own benefit is the greatest thing that has ever happened to him. He even reveals that he murdered Yolan simply because she laughed at him together with the other adventurers. Soy tells Ain that he should understand because they now possess the same kind of power. He even claims that Ain must have wanted revenge on him at some point. Ain firmly denies it. However, the ghost from Ain's nightmare whispers that many people had always mocked him. Ain begins to feel guilty and miserable. To make matters even worse, Soy continues insisting that they are exactly the same. At that moment, Yuri appears and tells Ain that she does not believe that at all. She knows he is a brave person who always tries to help others. Ursula also steps forward and tells Ain that he has become much stronger, and she is not talking about his ability. Finally, Yuri tells Ain that the only reason they are all together today is because of him. No one else would have volunteered to reunite her with the rest of her family. Because of Ain, she has been able to change her own destiny. Ain begins to cry because no one has ever said such kind words to him before. Even as Soy continues calling him a worthless worm, Ain realizes that although he was born weak, meeting Yuri and the others has greatly strengthened both his determination and his courage. Because every one of the girls has placed their trust in him, Ain refuses to let them down. At that moment, a tremendous surge of magical energy erupts from Ain's body, terrifying Soy. Ursula smiles with joy because she realizes that Ain has finally become a true guardian. She believes he has finally discovered his true worth and can now use 100% of the spirit's power. Soy immediately charges at Ain, but instead of landing his attack, he is struck by Ain's counterattack. Ain then charges towards Soy, who immediately tries to strike him. However, Ain blocks the attack with a magical barrier that withstands the impact. Desperate for more strength, Soy begs China for additional power, and she grants his request. His body transforms into an even more monstrous form. Despite the massive increase in power, Ain summons his sword, channels one of his abilities, and delivers a devastating strike that destroys both Soy and his spiritual eye. At that moment, Soy finds himself in a strange vision where Ain reaches out his hand to him. Soy cannot understand why Ain is willing to help someone who treated him so cruelly. Ain simply teaches him an important lesson, explaining that anyone can choose to become a better person. If Ain was able to change himself, then there is no reason Soy cannot change as well. Back in reality, Ain realizes that someone had taken advantage of the heroic nature that once existed within his former companion. He wonders who could have been responsible for everything that happened. Several hours later, China returns to recover the remaining fragment of Soy's spiritual eye. After repairing it with her magic, she says that she has successfully studied Ain's power. She also admits that the only thing that did not go according to her plan was Soy surviving. However, she sealed his memories so he will not remember anything that happened. China also realizes that Ain used purification magic on Soy. She considers it a clever strategy because it freed Soy from her magic while also saving his life. The following day, Ain is peacefully drinking tea when Yuri suddenly asks him to give her a kiss. Ain becomes extremely nervous, but Yuri explains that this is a common ritual between guardians and spirits. Ursula then appears and says that although she does not like the idea, Yuri is right. She explains that Ain has only completed the practical side of becoming Yuri's guardian. With no other choice, Ain agrees. Ursula tells him that now that he has fully awakened as a guardian, he must perform the ritual to strengthen the bond between them. Ain starts wondering what kind of kiss he should give Yuri. Just then, the other girls arrive, and Pina jokingly tells him that he should give Yuri a really big kiss, leaving Ain completely frozen in panic. Ursula quickly orders the girls to leave them alone. Before walking away, she warns Ain that if he crosses the line, she will kill him. Once they are alone, both Ain and Yuri become embarrassed. Without any hesitation, Yuri closes her eyes and offers her lips, waiting for Ain to kiss her. Ain becomes flustered because he thought the ritual only required kissing her hand. He nervously leans forward, but he accidentally trips and kisses Yuri on the forehead instead. The moment his lips touch her forehead, Ain's divine eye evolves to rank SS because a kiss on the forehead is considered an even stronger bond than a kiss on the lips. Yuri is overwhelmed with happiness and believes she could die happily at that very moment. In another scene, China meets with a demon named Falco. She hands him a scroll containing a direct order from the Demon King to eliminate Ain. At first, Falco dismisses Ain as nothing more than a weak human. However, China tells him that Ain defeated the behemoth with ease. She then explains that both she and the Demon King have complete confidence that Falco can accomplish the mission. After a little persuasion, Falco accepts the assignment, opens a portal, and arrives before Ain only moments later. He introduces himself as one of the 5 demon noble lords. Ain immediately asks him to keep his voice down because the girls are sleeping. This instantly angers Falco, who charges straight at Ain. Ain casually slaps him across the face, sending him flying, then walks over and finishes a powerful strike. After defeating Falco, Ain wonders why the demons targeted him this time instead of going after the girls. He immediately gathers everyone together to discuss the situation. Pina is shocked because she realizes that Ain has become an even more powerful guardian than before. The following day, Ain and Yuri arrive at the royal palace. Claudia is delighted to see them, and Ain explains that he came to access the books inside the Forbidden Library because the Royal Watch now allows him to enter almost anywhere within the kingdom. When they arrive at the entrance, Claudia sadly explains that she cannot enter because only the king and people recognized by the library itself are allowed inside. Ain asks what she means, and Claudia tells him that he will understand once he passes through the entrance. Ain walks through the barrier without any difficulty. However, when Yuri tries to follow him, the protective barrier immediately stops her. Ursula also appears and explains that even she cannot pass through it. Ain tells the girls that he will go in alone and promises to be careful. Inside the library, Ain is amazed by the enormous number of books. He suddenly notices a young woman falling from one of the shelves and quickly catches her before she hits the ground. The girl introduces herself as Alice, the librarian of the Forbidden Library. Ain explains that he came to research secret dungeons because he wants to help one of his friends. Alice is touched by his honesty, so she uses magic to summon the exact book that Ain needs. Ain immediately thanks her, and Alice asks him how Yuri has been doing. Ain is surprised that Alice already knows who he is. She simply explains that she recognizes Yuri's spiritual eye, and reveals that she also serves as a spirit of the world tree. Sometime later, Ain tells the girls that Alice accidentally gave him the wrong book. The girls find that impossible to believe, but Ain says he will return the next day to speak with her. Meanwhile, Alice secretly watches the group through her magic. When her guardian, Kai, appears, she asks Alice why she refused to give Ain the correct book about the secret dungeon. Alice explains that she is afraid of the outside world because she believes her sister, Echidna, was killed by humans. For that reason, she has come to hate all humans. The following day, Ain returns to the library and meets Kane for the first time. He is surprised to learn that they are also a spirit and a guardian. Ain tells them that Alice's sisters are waiting outside, but Kane explains that they cannot enter because this place does not actually exist inside the king's castle. It is a secret dungeon that can only be entered by humans. She also explains that only the king and the people he personally approves are allowed to enter because they made an agreement many years ago. The world tree would remain there, and in return they would use their magic to protect the entire place. After understanding the situation, Ain suggests that perhaps Alice could leave and meet her sisters instead. Kane replies that it will not be easy because Alice is terrified of the outside world and still believes humans cannot be trusted. Ain encourages her by saying that, just like him, she should have the courage to discover a completely new world. He promises that if she decides to leave, he will protect her with his own life. Alice immediately blushes, but Ain understands why she cannot trust a stranger. Since the other girls cannot enter through the barrier, Ain decides that he will search for the library through the dungeon's original entrance instead. After saying that, he leaves. Sometime later, Kane gently brushes Alice's hair while telling her that she does not have to leave if she is not ready. She can simply wait until Ain discovers the secret dungeon. Kane also admits that she noticed the way Alice looks at Ain and realized she fell for him the moment they met. Alice shyly admits that it is true. Whenever she sees Ain, her heart starts beating faster. She says she has read about this feeling in books, but experiencing it herself feels completely different. Their conversation is interrupted when Ain suddenly returns because he forgot something. Gathering her courage, Alice tells him that she trusts him and wants to see her sister. Ain gently picks her up and immediately heads toward the upper level of the dungeon because he plans to leave through its original entrance. Before leaving, Alice gives Ain her spiritual core because she cannot leave the dungeon without it. She also creates a clone of herself to accompany the group. After saying goodbye to the real Kane, they begin their journey and defeat numerous monsters throughout the dungeon. After defeating the dungeon boss, Alice quietly approaches Ain and shows her affection in her own way. Completely missing the hint, Ain fails to realize that she also wanted him to show affection in return. A little later, he notices that Alice seems sad. Kane explains that Alice is upset because once they reach the surface, she believes Ain will no longer carry her in his arms. Ain immediately tells her that he will gladly carry her anytime she asks, making Alice incredibly happy. Kane becomes just as excited, believing that her daughter has become the heroine of a romantic comedy. Several hours later, they finally reunite with the rest of the girls who are overjoyed to see Alice. Yuri and Pina immediately hug Ain, and Pina quickly notices that Alice has become jealous. She deliberately teases Ain to make Alice even more jealous. Unable to hold back any longer, Alice suddenly hugs Ain herself. Seeing how close they are, the girls ask Ain if Alice likes him, leaving him completely speechless. Later, Ain finds himself surrounded by all of the girls inside the sauna. It turns out he came there to avoid answering their question, but they all followed him anyway. Every time Ain tries to escape, they refuse to let him leave because they all want to know which one of them he likes the most. Eventually, one of the girls suggests that they should stop teasing him, causing everyone to calm down. However, since Pina is still sitting on top of him, Ain becomes extremely nervous because all of the girls are showing off their figure. Just as Ain is about to leave, Alice grabs his shirt and tells him that she wants to continue traveling with on all of his adventure. Before Ain can respond, the other girls arrive and immediately begin teasing Alice. Kane then tells Kurohime that Ain is incredibly dense because Alice had practically confessed her feelings to him. Ain later goes to Ursula and asks whether he can form the same spiritual bond with Alice. Ursula takes out a philosopher's stone, and they begin preparing for the ritual. Alice suddenly loses her balance and accidentally pulls down Ain's pants, leaving all of the girls staring in complete shock at his enormous titan. The following day, Ain meets with Jasper and Megan, who inform him that the king has requested his help on another mission. They ask whether he knows anything about demons. Ain says that he does, remembering his encounter with Falco. Megan then explains that the heroes created a dimensional barrier to drive the demons away. However, demons have recently been appearing more frequently within the territory of Rashi, so Ain's mission is to eliminate every demon he encounters. Jasper tells him that only someone as powerful as Ain can accomplish such a task because ordinary adventurers would stand no chance against them. At that moment, Ursula expresses her concern because she does not want Ain to risk his life. Soon afterward, the rest of the girls arrive and insist on helping him with the mission, so Ain eventually agrees to accept the request. In another scene, a large group of villagers gathers before an altar. As the ground begins to shake, everyone immediately kneels because a father explains to his daughter that a serpent god protects the village and must be worshipped. Moments later, a gigantic hydra appears, expecting the monthly sacrifice that the villagers had promised. The father sadly tells his daughter that she has been chosen as this month's offering. However, when the little girl stands before the monster, her father can no longer bear it and begs the hydra to eat him instead. The Hydra's many heads refuse, reminding him that their agreement requires the villagers to offer one woman. Angered by the interruption, the Hydra breathes out a poisonous mist that puts everyone except the little girl to sleep. Just as it is about to devour her, Ain suddenly appears and blocks its attack with his shield. He immediately recognizes that the Hydra is a rank SS ancient dragon. Using Yuri's healing ability, Ain cures everyone who is poisoned. He then draws his sword, imbues it with purification magic, and defeats the Hydra with a single strike. The villagers are left completely speechless and begin calling Ain the dragons. After thanking him, they escort him to the mansion of the Lord of the Land. Upon arriving at the mansion, Ain is welcomed by Negan Bonet Shig, and the two of them sit down for tea. Negan serves dessert, but he accidentally ruins it after mistaking salt for sugar. During their conversation, Ain suggests that people may have mistaken monsters for demons because he searched throughout the region and never encountered a single demon. He does explain that he defeated the Hydra before it could eat a young girl. Hearing this, Negan becomes horrified because he believes the village will now be overrun by monsters. Ain argues that the Hydra was an even greater threat because sacrificing innocent women every month was never the right solution. Negan understands Ain's point, but angrily replies that no matter how strong Ain is, he cannot stay there forever. Once Ain leaves, the villagers will be forced to suffer alone. He believes sacrificing one person to save everyone else was the only choice they had. After leaving the mansion, Ain begins wondering whether he truly made the right decision. Just then, Yuri appears and encourages him, telling him that he should always follow what his heart believes is right. Meanwhile, Negan speaks with a mysterious shadow through a magical mirror. He asks for help replacing the Hydra, but the shadow explains that the real problem is Ain. Even if they find another monster to replace the Hydra, Ain will simply defeat it as well. The shadow suggests framing Ain as a demon and recommends killing him instead. Negan agrees with the plan. As he leaves, the shadow introduces himself as Shadow, a Viscount-class demon. He secretly plans to take over Negan's body once he dies. Elsewhere, Ain continues investigating the village and notices that it has suffered heavy destruction. He tries asking one of the villagers about Nigun, but the woman immediately runs away in fear. Ain realizes that the villagers are hiding something because every time he mentions the Lord of the Land, they become terrified. Soon, one of the villagers who witnessed Ain defeat the Hydra approaches him and explains that ever since the dragon was killed, monsters have been attacking their farmland. They fear that everyone in the village will eventually starve to death. Feeling sympathy for their situation, Ain uses his magic to restore the barren land, causing lush vegetation to grow across soil that had once been completely infertile. Ain also raises a massive wall around the entire village to keep the monsters from destroying the newly restored farmland. He asks the villagers to accept his help, and one of them tells him that those same words were once spoken by Nigun's father. The villager explains that ever since Nigun became the Lord of the Land, life in the village has become much harder because he made a contract with the Hydra and greatly increased the taxes. Now that Ain has come to help them, the villagers have finally regained their hope for the future. At that moment, Ain senses a powerful presence approaching. He discovers that hundreds of monsters are charging toward the village, refusing to let them destroy everything they have rebuilt. Ain immediately prepares for battle, knowing that the horde is large enough to break through the barrier if he does not stop them first. As Ain watches the frightened villagers preparing for what they believe will be their final moments, he becomes even more determined to protect them. He flies into the sky and launches one of his strongest attacks, but when it fails to stop the monsters, he grows nervous. The creatures immediately swarm toward him, forcing Ain to cut down dozens of them within seconds. After fighting for some time, the villagers are left speechless as they witness him defeat hundreds of monsters almost by himself. Meanwhile, the girls warn Ain that if he continues fighting at this pace, he may seriously injure himself. However, Ain ignores their warnings and begins charging an even stronger ability that greatly expands the range of his attack. Once it is fully charged, he unleashes a massive slash that wipes out thousands of monsters with a single strike. Immediately afterward, Yuri rushes to his side to heal him because he collapses from using too much magic. Even Ursula is amazed by Ain's overwhelming power, realizing that not even Yuri can keep up with the amount of healing he requires. Thanks to Yuri's healing, Ain quickly recovers. The little girl whose life he saved earlier happily jumps into his arms. Soon afterward, the villager who had spoken with Ain addresses everyone in the village. He tells them that they must change the way they think because if they continue living as cowards, they may not be so fortunate next time. Ain saved them today, but no one knows what the future will bring. After hearing his speech, the villagers regain both their courage and their determination to fight for what they love. Seeing their renewed spirit fills both Ain and Yuri with happiness. Later, Ain tells Yuri that recently he has felt much closer to her. Just as he gave the villagers hope, Yuri was the one who gave him hope when they first met beneath the world tree. He admits that before meeting her, he truly hated himself and felt completely worthless. That hopelessness was the reason he jumped from the cliff in the first place. As Ain shares his feelings, the villagers jokingly tease the two of them, saying they look like a pair of lovebirds. Their conversation is interrupted when Nigun suddenly arrives and accuses Ain of deceiving everyone. He claims that Ain must be a demon because no ordinary human could have defeated both the Hydra and all of those monsters. However, the villagers are no longer willing to believe him. They openly declare that they do not care whether Ain is a demon or not because he has done more to protect them in a short time than anyone else. Nigun argues that everything he has done was for the sake of protecting the land, but the angry villagers remind him that they are part of that land as well. They urge him to become more compassionate, just as his father once was. Hearing those words deeply hurts Nigun, and at that moment, Shadow begins taking control of his body. Ain notices something strange after trying to appraise one of Nigun's belongings. Just like what happened with Soy, his appraisal is unable to analyze it. Nigun then finds himself speaking with Shadow inside his own mind. Nigun admits that he always wanted to become a kind ruler like his father, but his illness during childhood never allowed him to do so. Shadow then promises to reveal the truth about his father's death, and the story shifts to Nigun's childhood. His father was a humble lord who, despite ruling the land, personally worked alongside the villagers in the fields. Young Nigun admired him more than anyone else. However, because he suffered from a serious illness, he was physically weak and clumsy. His father never wanted him to overwork himself and instead encouraged him to play with the other children. Unfortunately, the children constantly bullied him because of his illness. Their parents had forbidden them from playing with him, falsely claiming that his condition was contagious. Those cruel words left Nigun heartbroken for many days, even though his illness was never contagious. The only effect of his condition was that his body was much weaker than normal. One day, after overhearing people speaking badly about him, Nigun tripped and fell beside a small puddle. That was the moment he met Shadow for the very first time. The demon deceived the lonely child by pretending to be nothing more than an imaginary friend and asked him to keep their friendship a secret. From that day on, Nigun finally felt happy because for the first time in his life he had someone he could talk to. One day when Nigun returned home, he found his father in very poor condition. His father explained that he had probably been poisoned by a monster. Shadow immediately claimed that he knew the perfect cure and tricked Nigun by teaching him a recipe that was actually the complete opposite of real medicine. Although Nigun faithfully prepared the herbal tea and his father pretended that it made him feel better, his condition secretly continued to worsen. As the years passed, Nigun faithfully gave him the false medicine every day until the heartbreaking day he found his father dead in his bed. Nigun is overwhelmed with regret because he believes he is too weak to rule the lands of Rashi. However, the demon begins manipulating him, telling him not to worry because he will always be there to help. Once Shadow realizes that Nigun has completely trusted him, he knows that controlling the young lord will be easy. Back in the present, Shadow finally reveals the truth. He confesses that he was the one who murdered Nigun's father. At the same time, Ain notices a dark aura surrounding Nigun and tries to speak to him. However, Nigun is frozen in shock after learning that he was unknowingly responsible for his own father's death. Shadow explains that the herbs Nigun faithfully gave his father were actually poisonous. Nigun cannot believe it, but Shadow reveals that this had been his plan from the very beginning. He wanted the boy's father dead so he could take control of the entire territory. It is also revealed that Shadow secretly used magic to alter the recipes inside the medical book. He then tells Nigun that he, not Ain, is the real demon and admits that he lied about everything. Finally, Shadow declares that Nigun had always been nothing more than his pawn. He originally tried to manipulate Nigun's father, but when that failed, he decided to take advantage of the son instead. Shadow even thanks Nigun because through him, many humans were sent to the demon realm. Overcome by despair, Nigun completely loses control, allowing the demon to possess his body. Shadow then introduces himself to Ain as one of the demon Viscount. Inside Ain's mind, the girls realize that Shadow deceived everyone by using a skill that concealed his true abilities. Ain asks what happened to Nigun, and Shadow calmly replies that Nigun is still inside his body. He boasts that taking control of him was incredibly easy. Shadow also blames Ain for ruining his plans. He explains that he intentionally used Nigun to weaken the village's defenses by sending monsters to attack, intending to deliver all of the villagers to the demon realm. Everything had gone according to plan until Ain arrived and destroyed it all, forcing Shadow to possess Nigun's body to continue his scheme. Shadow immediately launches countless shadow attacks that Ain barely manages to dodge. Ain blocks one of the attacks with his magical shield, but Shadow effortlessly shatters it using his shadow powers. The demon then summons numerous lesser demons near the villagers to slaughter them all. Ain immediately rushes to protect the villagers, but Shadow warns him that he will continue summoning endless monsters. Ain tries to create another barrier, but it is destroyed almost instantly. He then creates several clones of himself to defend the villager, but there are simply too many enemies. While trying to protect everyone, Ain lets his guard down and is struck by Shadow. The demon follows up with a relentless barrage of attacks, forcing Ain onto the defensive. Ain activates one of his defensive abilities to endure the assault while desperately searching for a solution. Shadow tells him that the only way to end everything is to kill him. Ain refuses because he knows that killing Shadow would also kill Nigun. Even while suffering tremendous damage, Ain slowly walks toward the possessed Nigun. When he finally reaches him, Ain grabs him by the shirt and slams his forehead into him. As he does, Ain desperately calls out Nigun's name. Deep within his own mind, Nigun hears Ain's voice and remembers how he always dreamed of becoming someone like his father. Overcome with emotion, Nigun begins to cry, believing it is already too late because he has brought so much suffering upon the village. Meanwhile, although the monsters continue attacking, the villagers refuse to surrender. Armed only with their farming tools, they fight to protect their homes. They realize that Nigun had been manipulated all this time and refuse to abandon him. Deep inside his mind, Nigun knows that his actions can never be forgiven, but he decides that he must do everything he can to save the villagers he loves. Gathering every ounce of courage, he struggles to reclaim control of his own body. Moments later, Shadow regains consciousness after being briefly stunned and prepares to attack Ain once again. However, something suddenly stops him. Nigun manages to regain control over half of his body for a brief moment and uses that opportunity to stab himself in the chest with a knife. Ain immediately tries to save him, but Ursula stops him, explaining that Nigun's sacrifice would become meaningless if he interfered. Inside Negan's mind, Shadow speaks to him one last time. Negan admits that he always knew Shadow was never truly his imaginary friend, but despite that, he still considered him a friend. Shadow coldly replies that he always saw Negan as nothing more than a pawn and believed he was weak and useless from the very beginning. It was that very weakness that allowed Shadow to control him for so many years. At that moment, the demon's true form separates from Negan's body and attempts to possess the little girl from the village instead. However, Ein notices the escaping demon and immediately throws his sword at him. At the same time, Ein desperately tries to heal Negan. When his own healing magic proves insufficient, Yuri joins him, and together they continue pouring all of their strength into saving his life. Refusing to give up, both of them continue healing Negan with everything they have. Deep within his consciousness, Negan chooses to follow the light, and moments later he finally opens his eyes. Ein and Yuri immediately embrace him with relief. However, Negan becomes upset because he believes he should have died to atone for all of his sins. Ein replies that although Negan once believed sacrificing one person to save many was the right choice, the truth is the exact opposite. At that moment, all of the villagers gather around Negan and show him their full support. One of them tells him that even if he had died, it would not have made anyone a better person, nor would his death have brought back those who had already been lost. Instead of dying, they tell him that he should live and make up for his mistakes. Negan reflects on those words and realizes they are right. He cannot believe he was foolish enough to think that dying would atone for his sins. He then kneels before everyone, apologizes for everything he has done, and sincerely thanks them for giving him a second chance. Meanwhile, Ein carries Yuri because she exhausted too much of her magical power during the battle. As he carries her away, he realizes that if he had met Shadow before meeting Yuri and the others, he might have ended up exactly like Negan, because he had once been mentally vulnerable after enduring years of abuse. The thought fills Ein with anger as he realizes that demons deliberately prey on people who are emotionally weak and mentally unstable. Soon, the other girls arrive to take care of Yuri. At that moment, Pina notices that Shadow is still alive. The demon has shrunk into a much smaller form, but he is immediately captured. Ein approaches him and promises to spare his life if he reveals everything he knows. However, just as Shadow is about to reveal that the Demon King and Echidna sent him to kill Ein, his body suddenly explodes. Ursula explains that he must have been under a spell that automatically kills any demon who tries to reveal information about the demon realm. Sometime later, Ein says goodbye to all of the villagers and assures them that the demon has finally been defeated. He promises the little girl that he will come back to visit them from time to time. Negan then approaches Ein and asks him to help eliminate all of the monsters still roaming his territory, because Rashig has become overrun with them. Along with all of the villagers, Negan bows before Ein and humbly asks for his help. Several hours later, Ein is summoned by the king, who proposes something completely unexpected. The king wants Ein to take over Negan's position as the new lord of the land. He explains that after defeating the demon, he had already planned to reward Ein with a noble title. And the idea of making Ein the new lord actually came from Negan himself, who willingly surrendered and is now serving his sentence in prison. The king then lists all of Ain's achievements throughout the kingdom, while Jasper congratulates him and explains that receiving ownership of the territory would also grant him a noble family name. Everyone immediately begins celebrating and rushes over to hug Ein. As Ein considers the offer, Jasper points out that becoming a noble would not be such a bad idea. It would allow him to build relationships with other nations and gather valuable information about secret dungeons. Jasper also promises to handle much of the administrative work himself. After thinking it over, Ein respectfully approaches the king and accepts both the noble title and the territory. Claudia immediately throws herself into Ain's arms, happily saying that this brings them one step closer to getting married, leaving Ein completely embarrassed. Before he can recover, Yuri also jumps into his arms and declares that she wants to become his wife as well. Claudia has no objection because Yuri had already claimed the position of first wife long ago. Meanwhile, Alice quietly watches the scene, clearly jealous of her new rivals. In another scene, several demon nobles mock the demons who were defeated by Ein. Their laughter is suddenly interrupted when a demon duchess named Johanna kills the demons who are making fun of their fallen comrade. She coldly states that she will not tolerate anyone insulting the efforts of others. Sometime later, Johanna visits China while she is watching Ein through her magical sphere. Johanna comments that China has become strangely obsessed with Ein. China calmly explains that she wants Ein to continue growing stronger. It is then revealed that, just like Falco and Shadow before her, Johanna has been assigned the mission of killing Ein. China orders her to wait inside one of the secret dungeons where another world tree is hidden. Johanna accepts the mission and immediately leaves through a portal. The scene then shifts back to Ain's group. Yuri happily prepares a meal for him when Alice and Pina suddenly arrive. Pina excitedly assumes that Alice has finally gathered the courage to confess her love. Instead, Alice explains that she has been using her spiritual eye for a long time to search for other world trees. Everyone becomes excited after hearing that she may have found a new lead, and they immediately agree that they should investigate it. Just then, they hear a small noise nearby. Moments later, a beautiful and very voluptuous young woman suddenly appears and rushes forward to hug the others. She introduces herself as Curse, the second oldest sister among the World Tree spirits. Ain is completely surprised because for the first time, one of the spirits has come looking for him on her own. At that moment, Kurz moved very close to Ain, and he could not help noticing her large chest, proving that he was quite the mischievous guy. Seeing this, Alice became jealous and asked Kurz to stop wasting time and explain why she had come. Kurz revealed that a demon had entered a secret dungeon and was heading toward the World Tree. Since the demon was far too powerful for her to handle alone, she had come to ask Ain for help. Without hesitation, Ain asked where her dungeon was, but Kurz explained that it was not her own tree that was in danger. Instead, the demon was heading toward the world tree of her youngest sister, May. Ain asked what had happened to May's guardian, and Kurz explained that she had died a long time ago because adventurers would do anything to steal parts of the world tree. Ever since her guardian died, Kurz had been protecting her younger sister herself. Ain could not understand how that was possible because he believed that spirits could never leave their own trees. Alice then explained that the older sisters were high-ranking spirits, allowing them to leave their trees without any problem. Understanding the situation, Ain realized that the demon was already close to reaching May. Kurz explained that the body standing before them was only a clone because her real body was still protecting May. Ain then asked why she wore a blindfold over her eyes. Kurz revealed that she possessed an evil eye. Although removing the blindfold would allow her to defeat the demon, it would also destroy May's world tree. After hearing everything, Ain immediately agreed to help and declared that they would leave at once. Sometime later, Ain arrived at a forest that turned out to be another secret dungeon. Since none of them knew where to go, he activated one of his tracking abilities and sprinted in the correct direction. While talking with the girls, they suddenly sensed the presence of monsters. Looking into the sky, they saw a massive swarm of giant wasps. At that moment, another demon countess named Hornet appeared and proudly declared that the weak demons Ain had defeated before were nothing compared to her. To prove her strength, she unleashed her swarm against a giant bear and easily killed it. Confident in her overwhelming power, she declared that Ain had no chance of defeating her. Hornet immediately sent the swarm after Ain, but he vanished in an instant and appeared behind her, driving his sword into her back. However, Hornet calmly explained that her ability allowed her to transform into any wasp within the swarm, meaning Ain would have to figure out which one was really her. Ain simply replied that it did not matter because he intended to wipe out every single wasp. He activated one of his strongest abilities, causing countless fireballs to rain from the sky and incinerate hundreds of the creature. Terrified, Hornet attempted to flee. Just then, another demon named Johanna appeared. She asked Hornet whether she intended to run away, and after receiving her answer, Johanna immediately killed her. She mocked Hornet's title as a demon countess, saying that someone so weak did not deserve such a rank. Even so, Johanna was pleased because Ain had finally arrived. She tried to intimidate him with her overwhelming presence, but Ain remained completely unfazed. Johanna declared that she had come for the spirits, but Ain angrily stated that he would never allow her to get anywhere near them. A moment later, Ain suddenly appeared behind Johanna, leaving her completely shocked because she realized she had been talking to nothing more than one of his clones. Ain immediately overwhelmed her with a relentless beating. After launching her high into the air, he moved even faster and struck her with another devastating blow that slammed her into the ground. As Ain approached, Johanna burst into insane laughter, saying that no one had made her bleed in a very long time. She launched several attacks at him, but Ain deflected every one of them with his sword, sending them back at her. The instant she lowered her guard, Ain appeared behind her and cut off her head. Even without her body, Johanna continued talking, making Ain think that demons were just like cockroaches. Ain then explained that every strike he landed had secretly activated an ability that drained his opponent's power, which was why Johanna had gradually become weak. Furious, Johanna declared that she was part of the demon elite and could not believe she had been defeated by such a ridiculous ability. She immediately opened a portal to escape back to the demon castle. Ain tried to chase after her, but the girls stopped him, reminding him that saving May and Kurz was their highest priority. Alice then guided everyone deeper into the dungeon. Soon, they discovered several glowing branches. Ain was amazed by the sight, and Alice explained that not everyone could see them. She added that even though she could sense their power, she could never find them on her own. Moments later, the branches began moving, and a portal opened before them. After stepping through it, they found themselves in a beautiful world completely different from the forest outside. The moment Yuri saw her younger sister, she rushed forward and happily embraced May. Pina and Curse greet each other using a special handshake they created together. Alice, however, becomes the target of their teasing because they jokingly say that she probably wishes Ain would have a secret greeting just for her. Soon afterward, Ain walks over to May and notices that she is only a little girl peacefully sleeping. As he quietly turns around to avoid waking, he accidentally steps on a branch. The loud crack startles May, causing her to burst into tears. Ain completely freezes in panic. He desperately tries making funny faces to cheer her up, but only makes things worse as May continues crying even harder. A moment later, Yuri arrives, and May immediately calms down after seeing her older sister. She happily greets all of her sisters and adorably says she wants to make flower crowns for each of them. However, she falls asleep before finishing. Soon afterward, Ain approaches her, and May warns him to be careful because she thought he was the one causing all the destruction outside the dungeon. Yuri quickly explains that Ain was actually the one protecting her home. After hearing the truth, May immediately apologizes. Ain also apologizes for frightening her earlier. May's attitude changes completely, and she excitedly asks Ain to play with her. Ain lifts her into his arms, but since May wants something more exciting, he leaps high into the sky while carrying her. The sisters become convinced that she will cry for at least a week after such a frightening experience. Instead, when they land safely, May is absolutely delighted and tells Ain that he is now one of her favorite people. Everyone congratulates Ain for winning May's affection. She then tells him that she wants to travel with him and her sisters. Kurz says she has no objection and plans to stay behind to protect the area. However, Ain asks whether she would also like to come since they are all family. Kurz thinks about it for a moment, and after hearing that Ain will create a barrier and leave one of his clones behind to protect the place, she finally agrees. Roots then emerge from both her spiritual core and May's. Kurz happily tells her little sister that they will travel together, making everyone incredibly happy. Yuri immediately hugs Ain and tells him how much she cares about him. Alice wants to say the same thing, but she is simply too shy to do it. Sometime later, while the sisters are talking together, Ain confesses to Ursula that he used to hate him. However, ever since meeting all of them, he has developed a strong desire to protect those he cares about. He also admits that his heart feels much warmer than it ever did before because the girls are the ones who give him the strength to keep moving forward. Hearing those words reminds Ursula of everything Ain has endured while fighting powerful enemies. Although she is deeply moved, her pride prevents her from showing it, so she ends up teasing him instead. At that moment, Ursula transfers the spiritual cores into Ain, causing his spiritual eye to evolve once again. She explains that from now on he will be able to read the aura of other people. Shortly afterward, Kurz tells Ain that he has gained a new ability that allows him to undo almost anything. However, she warns him that the power is extremely difficult to control, and that no one fully understands its side effects, so he should only use it when absolutely necessary. Ain understands and promises to save it for emergency. May then demonstrates her own ability, which allows her to control trees. Ain watches in complete amazement as she effortlessly manipulates the surrounding forest. Finally, Ursula explains that Laura's appraisal ability now allows Ain to greatly increase his physical ability. She points out that high-ranking demons like Johanna possess the same kind of power, but Johanna lost because she underestimated him and failed to use it properly. Ursula also reveals that Ain's sword has gained a new ability that allows it to cut through magic while absorbing an enemy's aura to strengthen itself. Ain is thrilled by these new powers and realizes that he now possesses strength comparable to that of the highest-ranking demon. In another scene, Echidna gathers the strongest demons in the demon realm and declares that Ain must be eliminated because he has become the greatest threat to the Demon King's resurrection. The following day, Ain arrives at Naigun's former mansion, which will now become everyone's new home. Acting like a hard-working servant, Ain tells everyone that they need to clean the entire mansion. Some of the girls agree immediately while others complain, but Ain gives them an encouraging speech, reminding them that Jasper will soon be bringing all of their luggage and that everything should be spotless before them. Ain then forms cleaning teams, and Alice is especially happy because she gets to go to the library with him. While Ain is busy cleaning, Alice notices that her guardian is not nearby and thinks it is the perfect chance to confess her feelings. Ain suddenly tells her that he knows someone has stolen his heart. Alice instantly assumes he is talking about her and believes he is confessing his love. When Ain says that he feels the same way, Alice blushes intensely, convinced that he loves her too. However, Ain is actually talking about one of the books that has gone missing. Realizing the misunderstanding only in her own imagination, Alice becomes completely flustered as she starts creating an entire romantic story inside her head. In another scene, Kurohime arrives to check on Pina and notices that the kitchen appears to be perfectly clean. At least, that is what she thought at first. Kurohime immediately warns Pina that illusions will not work on her. Seeing how serious Kurohime is, Pina has no choice but to start cleaning for real. Meanwhile, Ursula and Yuri are cleaning the bathrooms. Yuri accidentally trips and Ursula immediately rushes to catch her, but they both end up crashing into each other. Yuri gently tells her mother that she does not need to be so overprotective anymore because she actually enjoys doing things by herself. She explains that Ursula had always been extremely protective while they were living at the World Tree. Yuri then says that meeting Ain has helped her become a much more mature person. Hearing those words makes Ursula incredibly happy, and she declares that they will make the bathroom spotless. Elsewhere, May and Curse enter what appears to be a dressing. May picks up a cockroach she finds on the floor, causing the usually fearless Curse to panic in terror. May quickly throws the insect out the window, while Curse admits that she almost activated her evil eye just to get rid of a single bug. A little later, May finds a beautiful dress that she really likes. As they continue looking through the clothes, they discover a very revealing outfit meant for Curse. However, May points out that it would show far too much skin, and the two of them immediately come up with an idea. Sometime later, Ain finishes cleaning one of the rooms and walks outside, where he finds Yuri wearing a beautiful dress. He blushes after seeing how stunning she looked. Yuri explains that May and Curse found the dresses in the dressing room. She then takes Ain by the hand and tells him she has a surprise waiting for her. They soon arrive at the grand dining hall, where all of the girls are dressed in elegant and beautiful outfits. Pina tells Ain that they also prepared a suit for him and insists that he put it on. Ain hesitates at first, making Yuri feel a little disappointed, so Ursula immediately threatens him until he agrees. A short while later, Ain appears wearing the suit, leaving all of the girls completely mesmerized. Even Alice cannot stop staring at how handsome he looks. After a few more words between Kurz and Ain, Yuri tells him that it is time for them to dance. Alice immediately becomes jealous, and Yuri notices it right away. She warmly tells Alice that she is welcome to join them because she knows Alice has feelings for Ain as well. Kurohime volunteers to provide the music, and everyone spends the next several hours happily enjoying the celebration together. Later, Ain and Yuri quietly watch the sunset while talking. Yuri sincerely thanks him for helping her reunite with her family. Ain smiles and tells her that their journey is far from over, because they still have 4 more sisters to find. Yuri is deeply moved by his words. She happily thanks him once again and promises that she will stay by his side for the rest of her life.